All right, our last presentation for this section, looking at physiology and behavior, is going to be by Marta, investigating a social call's role in big brown bat mate attraction.
Hi everyone, my name is Marta. I'm a master's student at Master University. I'm presenting my research today on social calls in big brown bats. So I study social calls, and in case you haven't had the experience of looking at a spectrogram or a visualization of sound, I'll just give you a little rundown. And I'll show you right here on one of the big brown bats' own social calls. This is an isolation call, so it's a social call emitted by big brown bat pups when they're separated from their mothers and they want to facilitate a reunion. A spectrogram usually shows the frequency of the bat's call, so that's the very fast rate they're emitting their sounds at, compared with on a time scale. So we can see that bats usually are capable of traveling through a range of frequencies in a very short amount of time, in the span of milliseconds. And bats are also capable of emitting multiple frequencies at once, and those are known as harmonics. Bats can emit short social calls, like in the case of the common noctule, and they're also capable of producing long songs, like the male sac-winged bat's territorial and mating song. Bats are also capable of producing calls with multiple purposes, such as the soprano and the common pipistrelle. They emit these two very similar looking social calls called song flight. And the interesting thing about song flight is that it actually has a dual role. The emission of song flight is found to have a correlation with the amount of females visiting the roosts, where more song flight correlates to more female visits. And it's also been demonstrated to have a role in food competition, where when the song flight is emitted in large swarms of insects feeding areas, there is a correlation in reduction in feeding. So theorize that it could have a role in reducing food competition. Big brown bats produce a variety of social calls and syllables. A few studies have been done on this. For example, all of these syllables were found to be emitted by big brown bats in a stationary context, and all of these syllables were found to be emitted by big brown bats who are flying in a flying context. I'm specifically investigating this call found in this previous Wright et al. Study. It's called the frequency modulated bout, or the FMB. So it's called frequency modulated bout because it spans multiple frequencies in a short amount of time, and the bout refers to the 3 to 4 syllables within the call. I found some mean call characteristics from all the studies on the FMB, usually by Wright et al. And Wright et al. Found that the FMB has only been found to be emitted by male big brown bats who are experiencing food competition. When two bats are going for a flying food item, and one bat emits the FMB, the other bat will be deterred and fly away from the prey item. So interestingly enough, this FMB shares some spectrotemporal characteristics with the pipistrelle song flight call I was talking about earlier. So they share some characteristics, and as I talked about earlier, this song flight has a dual role in mate attraction and food competition. And this FMB call has a known role in food competition. And since it's only emitted by male big brown bats, I hypothesized it could also serve as an attractive cue to female big brown bats. And if that were the case, I would suspect that this attraction would be strengthened during the big brown bat mating season from September to November. So that's what I set out to investigate in my master's thesis. So I took 34 female adult bats, and I ran my experimental paradigm on them in both mating season in November, and I will do another trial in non-mating season in April. I'm administering randomized treatments to them in a 2 alternative forced choice test. they will have the option of choosing between one of these combinations of conditions. So the stimuli that I'm presenting to these bats are a synthetic FME call created by code developed by Kazuma Hayes, one of our old postdocs. I am also presenting them with a reversed synthetic FME because this captures all the same frequencies but in order with no meaning. And I also present them with system noise, just noise coming from the speaker with no call associated with it, just to see if that speaker noise is having any effect on the bats. So what I did in these experiments is I played one of these sounds from one speaker, one of these sounds from the other speaker. I placed the bat in this experimental arena. I let them walk around, and I filmed the experiment, and the variables that I measured were which side they chose first, which side they chose last, and the amount of time they spent on each side of the arena. Okay, so across all four conditions, what I expected to see is if this FMV call had attractive properties, I would expect to see that the bats choose the side of the FMV first, both in the condition where I'm comparing it to the first call and the condition where I'm comparing it to system noise. And I expected to see an equal proportion of bats choosing each side first in the system noise versus system noise condition, and then this reverse call versus system noise condition I did to make sure that they're not just attracted to the noise of the reverse call or the noise of the call. So, unfortunately, I did not see any significant difference between which side the bat chose first across all four groups. Similarly, I also measured the last side chosen with the same hypothesis for each condition. And I also saw no significant differences across groups for which side the bats chose last. However, when I conducted a proportion test within each of these groups, I did see that a significant proportion of bats chose the FMB side over the system noise side in this one condition. We also took the difference between the time the bats spent on one side versus time spent on the other side. So when you look at this graph and you see the box on closer to the side that I'm showing at the top, that means they spend more time on that side. So again, I expected to see a time difference that favored the FME in conditions 1 and 2. No difference was expected for this system noise side, and this reverse versus system noise side was to see if, again, that sound up from the speaker was making any difference. And I did see that there was no significant difference between groups for the difference in the time spent on each side of the arena. So this is all interesting to piece together because from my research into this, right at all, I've claimed a few times that only males emit this FMB while they're flying. However, a recent paper has come out while I was doing and preparing this study that found that females also emit this FMB while crawling, and they did that test in a food competition context. So it's possible that the FMB really does only play a role in food competition. But this does give us a bit better understanding of big brown bat mating systems and mate attraction. And had I got the results that I expected, the utilization of the FMB call could have been used in acoustic lure studies to take surveys of populations and such. So, thank you for the McMaster Bat Lab for supporting my work, and thank you for listening to my talk, everybody.
Do we have time for a few questions?
Do you assume that all females are attracted to all males, or are there preferences that might be in the data that you are ignoring, individual preferences?
There hasn't been too much previous study to indicate that the females really show a preference for who they're choosing. Some of the previous studies have indicated that the males will choose females who are higher copulators, but not too much research has been done into the female choice.
So if you show that the FMN is also emitted by the female, so then male can be a factor in who they want to spend time, right?
Yeah, so sorry, I didn't repeat the question. We asked if males could also be affected if the FMB is emitted by the females as well. So in my next round of studies that I'm starting soon, I will also test some of the males in the arena. We don't have a lot of males in our captive colony, so I don't know if it'll be a significant sample size, but I do want to see what they do.
What do we know about how these bats respond to novel stimuli? I know the reverse color, which is it's a very neat design in terms of having all the same frequency characteristics, but in an unexpected order. Do we know anything about how bats are going to react to an unexpected novel stimulus? Are they curious, or are they wary? Would you expect that they would be attracted to or avoid just because it's new?
I don't know, I didn't really have any expectations going in, which is why I wanted to test it against the system noise to see if, oh, they really like this. They just like that there's sound coming from this side, let's go to it, or let's go away from it. I don't know, I guess that was me testing it against the no sound, so it didn't seem to have much of a significant difference from all the other groups' reactions.